Oh shit! I forgot the overlay.
I believe in you. You can do
it. Sorry, starting off great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Anti-Think Tank Live. We are doing the debate, the presidential debate between Mr. Trump and Mrs. Harris.
The cultural event of the season, at least for another month or two, whenever they go out into the arena and battle to the death. That's the truly fun one.
That's the best one. We're all waiting on that one. For any of those who are watching us on Twitch, I will throw this on screen. Twitch is not our number one area for content. It's our YouTube channel, and here's how you can get to it. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You see the text on screen. Go and kind of paste that into your browser now, and there we go. So let's discuss what our predictions are for this debate tonight.
So, pre-debate expectations for me are not extremely high for either candidate. I kind of think that it's going to end up being a bit of embarrassment from both sides, with Trump probably saying some off the wall shit at one point and Kamala Harris just having no fucking clue what she's doing in terms of like actual off the cuff like debating, because we saw in her Democratic primary, like before she was vice president in 2020, she was not good on the debate stage. Like, we know that for a fact. Unless something has drastically changed in the last 40 years, she was terrible on the campaign trail. What I really want is for Trump just kind of like grab her and just push her feet into the fire and say, hey, what do you actually like stand for? Because while he has shown like a plan, like he's outright stated like what he wants to do, what he's going to do, whereas she has been kind of middling to very reactive. She hasn't really put forward any original plan of her own. And that's something that I think a lot of voters are going to be trying to look towards tonight to see whether or not she's actually going to do that.
Yeah, as it stands right now with me, I am not for either candidate. I hate both of them. But if anything, if any kind of entertainment out of this is possible, I would like to see the shit show argument between both of them. I want to see a repeat of the fucking golf argument between Biden and Trump.
You either lied to our viewers or to me. To be completely transparent, you did say that because Trump said he would reveal like the JFK documents and such, or the Kennedy documents, that you are slightly, ever so teeny, leaning to him.
Yeah, that's it. That's that's literally the only reason why I would vote for him. Everything else, no. So you have to understand, I am not that political. I tend to be independent. I just kind of hear both sides what sounds good, and so far neither have sounded good except for releasing the classified documents on JFK's assassination. That's the only thing that's came out that's positive, at least from my opinion. Also, Locust, welcome to the stream, good sir. It is the boyos.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, tonight we're gonna be watching CNN stream of the debate. Whenever that goes up, it's supposed to be starting here at 7:45. We
15 minutes of pre-show and then an hour and a half of just full-blown, like, on-stage Kegel exercises.
Also, we may be joined here by Ian. I'm not sure when. He is at work. And
He called me earlier. He said he's gonna join the streamable at some point. Keep his AirPod or whatever the hell he uses in, be muted, and then whenever he's like not around like coworkers or customers, like chime in on some shit every once in a while. But he's mostly just gonna be doing listening. So
all right. And Connor, he said he gets off at like at 8. So he may not at 8, at 9. So he may join us like later on in the stream. We'll see how that goes.
yeah, we're gonna go for a decent while. We're gonna cover like a little bit of pre-show, the full debate, and then like discuss what the fuck went wrong afterward, because something's gonna go wrong. Let's be real here. So someone might just like just vomit on stage the most retarded shit you've ever seen in your entire life.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the downfall of this whole debate. Now let's say this: if there's a chance for either of them to come across with a good comeback to one another, or a good debate performance, do you think it's a no batter between Trump and Harris, or do you think it's another landslide kind of like how it was between Biden and Trump. That was
So
I wasn't.
Kamala has the opportunity to actually make herself seem reasonable. All she has to do is not completely fall apart, and she's gonna do fairly well. Trump could either completely and totally just destroy the debate and ruin Kamala forever, or fall apart. I've never seen a Trump debate go middle ground. Like
Oh yeah,
he is
it's either one or the
either
other.
destroying someone to the point that they are dropping out of the race, or he's saying such off the wall it might actually, if that was a sports team doing what he does on debate, sometimes they would be sued for like throwing the game. And
By
then
the way,
other
look,
times he's just out there like pitching a perfect game, like hitting 4 home runs and just fucking hitting the gritty as he's passing by the touchdown. Like,
Lucas says he can't wait for you to absolutely shit on them.
oh yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. Like if all else fails, if democracy dies, I'm at least gonna have some fun with it, before they ship me off to the camps. I can't wait until like the standard American pissing match over who supports Israel harder.
Now, a little bit of information, a little bit of announcements before we get more into the political side of things. For our viewers who love laughing stocks, we're happy to announce that episode 3 is done. Just a matter of releasing it. And by the calendar schedule, we are going to be shooting for September 25th for episode 3. And Lucas says sweet. Absolutely. Honestly, I think episode 3 is the best one we made so far. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely got the 3 strongest overall. Like in terms of like just average strength, I think that our most recently shot one is probably like the best one we've made so far. And then it's paired with 2 others that are like also the weakest one is probably the news one of the 3, but it's still like above average for us. So
I love the news one. I'll be honest with you. It's hilarious. But I will say that the 2 that is with it though is above that. I can't say a weakest one because like when it came to episode 2, there was a weakest one. Absolutely, there's a weakest one. But this one, I would consider eating the weak. It's just they're all great. It's just 2 are just a little bit better.
yeah, like episode 2 definitely had like our weakest one we've ever fucking made. Like when we eventually decided to like I don't know, like stream that shit on HBO Max or some shit. Studio is definitely like taking that one out back, shooting in the head, and then just scrubbing that part of the episode. But hey, it was fun making it.
It was fun. But yeah, you guys can look out for that. September 25th, episode 3 Laughing Stocks comes out. And hopefully sometime next week we'll be able to shoot some more sketches. We'll see how that goes. Also, I forgot to mention, Ryan, is this going to be the podcast episode for the week, or are we still going to record another one separately?
It depends on how long this goes personally, and how much like how bullshit it is today, because I could just have my entire retardation battery just drained out, or we could just record a separate one tomorrow and post it on Friday. It's entirely up in the air. You guys will know on Friday whether or not we decided to like shoot it, as to whether or not there will be an episode up or not. So
Because originally, Ian had called me earlier and was asking like, "Is this going to be a podcast episode or whatnot?" And I told him that I'm totally down with just waiting till tomorrow to record that. Because now, how we do it now, there's no like, there's no
stress,
mess.
really.
Yeah, like there's no massive problem editing the podcast anymore because it's all done through here. So we can record it Wednesday and I'll have it up by I have it uploaded, ready to go by Thursday. So yeah, we will see how that goes, how that plays out. It's 7:41. We got 3 more minutes till CNN decides to start their broadcast. What's funny is I'm still surrounded by a lot of Republicans, like at work and in life in general. And I love when they always say that, like, "Oh, CNN's gonna back up Kamala Harris and because she's Democrat, whatnot." And it's like, do you guys not remember when Biden fucked up and they totally they put him on blast? Was it? Yeah, he fucking sucked.
Like, the media is definitely at least somewhat biased against Donald Trump, but it's sort of like when there's something that's just blatant, they're like, we would just straight up lose all credibility
Yeah.
if we tried to say that was a good performance from Joe Biden. Now, like, I never expect objectivity from like CNN because they said some shit that's just completely fucking false before. Like, oh, Trump runs away from loud noises at rally, and we're like, no, he was shot. Like, we all saw it.
I'm sure every media though has their own biases. I mean, hell, Fox News fucking worships Donald Trump like a god.
Fox News doesn't necessarily worship Trump. They more worship the Republican Party. If the Republican Party decided to throw Trump out and just replace him, like, they would suck that off like any day of the week.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Let's see here. I wonder if you look up approval ratings so far to see who's in the lead.
I actually looked at a video earlier today that just went over every poll and just basically took the most recent polling data and just put it onto the election map, and it's currently like Trump is currently with polling projected to get about 280 electorate votes and win the election. And that's taking everything as like just point for point for point, like if the polling was 100% accurate. The general rule of thumb is that Trump overperforms expectations from polling. So he may walk away with, if it was done today, probably around 300 electorate votes and a win. After the debate, we'll fucking see. One thing that interests me is that this is the only debate that Kamala Harris has actually agreed to do.
See, I haven't kept up with any of that. Like, I didn't know this was the first one she agreed.
Yeah, like Trump suggested 2 others, and she just ignored the first one, agreed to this one, and has not commented on the third. I'm guessing to see how tonight goes. Like, if it goes poorly, she can just keep that one in the back burner as like a maybe I can recover with that. Or if it goes very well, you just don't agree to that one. So the last debate that was between you and Trump was the one that you won.
Why would you not want to debate? Because if you debated, that would prove your side. You would strengthen. Depending on what you said, you would strengthen your chances of winning the presidency. So why would you not take that chance?
Because if you have a massive advantage, it's better to not throw it than it is to like advance it even further. That's just like a win more thing. Objectively, it is better for the country to do more debating. I think that there should be like a rule when it comes to the election that in this day and age, like every fucking week, these candidates should be getting across the stage from one another and just discussing like policy plans and everything else. It shouldn't be that Kamala Harris or Donald Trump can just not show up to a fucking debate. We have.
Oh, something's happening. Let me turn it down a little bit. I say, is it like, what are they doing now? Are they just fucking making us do a starting soon thing, or?
It's hosted by ABC, so they might be doing like not showing it just because it's ABC. That's doing the pre-show. I don't fucking know.
I don't know. We'll listen to this nice epic music. Yeah, I'm just saying if there's hold on a second here. I can't tell if this is going to be the debate or not. There's ABC News is live right now, and they're actually talking and discussing.
If you want to pull that one up and just see real quick.
Let's see here. No, not invite. What am I doing here? Present. There we go. Oh, they're giving us advertising.
Impact by Nightline.
Are you kidding me?
13 minutes to the presidential debate.
Was that everybody around him was afraid of him.
Brittany describes having a secret abortion that not even her family knew about.
Now this is what Americans truly care about.
Yeah, this is the best right here. This is what we tuned in for.
You look great. Are you on something?
How the entire country is going to go for the next 4.5 fucking years? Hell no. Britney Spears had a secret abortion.
I think Scott Peterson murdered his wife and his child.
Scott Peterson. Now that's the shit we need to worry about now.
Accepted abuse?
Yep, that's him.
Yep. Ready? Does your church protect sexual predators?
How do you top the most watched season?
Of course they do. Every church does.
You have no idea.
Impact by Nightline. The all-new season premieres this September, only on Hulu.
You would think that... Okay, fuck it. I guess they're just getting their bag.
Lives are changed.
Oh, this is in Philadelphia. Fucking... Like... Charlie's gonna come out of the goddamn woods and, like, shiv someone or some shit.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC
Really?
News Live
They will?
nights, wherever you stream your news, only on ABC News Live.
That woman is 90% forehead.
There's a lot going on. We're still in a flash flood warning.
It has a fucking gravitational lens to it.
Good lord. Fucking big brain.
What people are talking about, the worries on Wall Street.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Philadelphia a swing state?
Pennsylvania is, yeah.
I'm stupid. Give me a second here.
That's the spirit. America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News.
So if Kamala can somehow make this a triumphant, words, Justin, words, say them. They're not hard. If Kamala could win this would be a good win in the bag for her.
Yeah, like, Trump is in the lead right now, but it isn't a massive, massive lead. It could still go either way. So whoever wins tonight is going to be celebrating. And if it is a definitive victory, like there's no getting around it, it may just lock the race.
Everything felt right. All of a sudden, I found this hidden folder.
I'm still so pissed off that fucking.
I don't think I can say it. I'm sorry.
I'm pissed off that
It's shocking.
the RFK Jr. dropped out of the race.
He
Bastard.
really didn't think I had it in me to do something. So I did.
I'm fine with it. He's probably going for like he realistically was like, all right, I'm like the Democratic Party chose to like just put her up there without even putting a single vote out there. Like Trump should definitely bring that up tonight.
I feel like if he doesn't, that'd be a missed opportunity. Like, definitely.
Yeah. Because they keep calling him like threat to democracy, threat to democracy, threat to democracy. If they don't bring up the fact that the Democratic Party literally just went behind closed doors and just unanimously decided that this candidate that nobody voted for is going to be like your candidate, like that would just be that would just outright be negligence on his part at that point.
I know. Let me turn this up a little more now.
Now about 10 minutes away.
And I'm Jonathan Carl here with Mary Bruce and Rachel Scott. The candidates are just off the stage, ready to walk out. They are in their hold rooms, just minutes from making
okay.
that walk. Martha, you have
When he said just
backstage
outside the
at
stage,
this
you know what I was thinking
moment.
about? I was thinking like they're seeing each
Well,
other from across the stage
stressful,
doing this
but
to one
it's
another,
also
like
that time you
like
just
doing
say,
that,
this is go
like
time.
taunting
Get in
them.
your zone.
I have a
I'm
fucking
sure
idea for a
the
sketch now,
nominees,
though.
the candidates right now are thinking the same thing. They've studied. They're going to go out, open the curtain.
All right, well, then let's bring somebody in who has been there both debating Donald Trump and helping him prepare.
Also, interesting
for
tidbit.
general
This is the
election
first
debates,
time that
the
Kamala
former
Harris and Donald Trump
governor
have
of
seen
New
each other
Jersey,
in real life.
Chris Christie. So,
Really?
Chris,
Yeah.
helped
I learned that
prepare
yesterday.
for this
Like,
moment
they've never
several
met in
times.
real life.
He says
Oh,
he doesn't
fuck you, Chris
prepare,
Christie.
but he actually
Oh hell, here we
does.
go.
Bring us into that room right now. What's going on with Donald Trump?
Well, look, at this point, he's in the worst hour of his prep, because you just have to sit there and wait for the time to come, and they make you get there early, and so he's there. He's not really being spoken to. You know, a little small talk here and there, but nobody's trying to give him any kind of clues.
So let me ask you the question.
Are you seeing the same thing that
let
I
me
am?
ask
Is
you
that
the
why you're
question I
laughing?
tried to ask
No,
Tom Todd.
it's
He
how
didn't
he's saying
exactly
it.
Give me an answer, but you will.
It's like
Which
he's like,
Trump
this
is gonna
is
show up
the
tonight?
longest hour wait
You
to
don't
come
have to
out
do that.
and to
Which
come
Trump?
out, and you know it takes a lot of preparation. It may come up too early.
The Trump who will show up will be the calmer.
You know, a little small talk here and there.
He knows
He's gonna have to
inherently
throw out
after
a
the
fucking
2020
jizz.
first debate against Joe Biden that the other Donald Trump is not the one that's a winning formula. The question's going to be, will he be able to continue to maintain that approach through questioning by
Dude,
David and
his-
Lindsay, and through any comments that Vice President Harris makes?
His double
in his
chin is
direction?
acting
And
independently.
that'll be the key to how he performs tonight.
Straight
And
up
you and
Joe
I
the
were
Hutt vibes right
talking,
now.
You helped prepare him for those 2016 debates against
Mr. Christie, how do
Hillary
you
Clinton.
think that Trump is going to perform tonight?
He
Ooga
told
wooga
you
tika
that
tao.
he had respect
Eat
for Hillary
do
Clinton,
gusha
that Hillary
ting
Clinton was
bakata.
smart as you were preparing. What about Kamala Harris? We hear not the same.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly. I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020.
No shit.
And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about getting ready for Joe Biden. I think performances in both those debates reflected that approach.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate. So let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly of the DNC, and Reince Priebus, the RNC. Welcome to both of you. And Donna, let's start with you. You have said that Kamala Harris has to own the future, but she also has to own the past. So how does she do this?
It's
What?
quite easy. Because I do believe that in talking about the future, you draw from your past. You draw from your past experiences. She draws from how she was raised, the values that was instilled in her as a young lady. Look, she is steady on her feet, still
Listen,
in her resolve. And
here's how you
tonight
own the
she should
past,
talk
right?
to the
You
American
scrub your record
people,
clean of
sit
any
in their living
wrongdoing.
rooms,
That's how you
go to
own
their
the
kitchen
past.
table and say, look, I have some ideas that I want to share with you. There's so
I
much
don't
that we
think
have
that
done
Kamala
together over
Harris
the
wants to
last
own the past,
but here's
considering
what I
her
think we
fucking
can do
record.
together over the
Like,
next 4 years. Be positive in her approach.
do you
And
know what
lead
she
the
did
American
as a
people. We don't want
prosecutor? That shit
chaos
was
and
evil.
confusion, the disaster that
Fucking
made, of
own the
course, the
past. Are
American
you
people
fucking
go out
kidding
in
me right
droves
now?
in 2020 to fire the former president. Say, I want to be a president that lead all Americans. I want to keep us strong and secure. And here's the plan that I want to share with you tonight.
And Donna, I of course meant Biden. She has to own up to the Biden administration's any mistakes they made too, and Donald Trump is going to go after
Listen
her.
here, you dumb bitch. I'm talking about
You
the
know, Martha,
administration.
They made mistakes. Donald Trump and Mr. Pence made mistakes. But you know what? If we focus on our mistakes, we won't focus on all of the good things that we could do together as Americans.
Wow.
There's something
Just
to say
dodging
about
that
people
shit
who are
immediately.
able to work.
And
The
you know,
people
that
who
was
can
like a
buy
good
their
weave.
insult
Like,
without paying over $1,000, $35.
look, if we
There's
just
so
focus
much
on the
good
negative, we
to
don't have
talk about
anything.
from
So
the
we just gotta go for the
she's made to small towns across this
What
country,
positive?
large cities
What-
across
what-
the country.
what-
Bring us together. The American people want to be led.
I love
into
how
the
she called
future,
out
not
immediately,
dragged
though.
back to
Just right out the
another
gate.
era.
Like,
And Ryan,
good
so
for
I
her.
have more
That was like, I'm
Yeah.
of course
you
talking
also
about Joe
prepped,
Biden,
Donald
not
Trump for
her.
debates back in 2016, I believe. What Donald Trump do you think we'll see tonight? Can he be disciplined about talking about policies and what kind
Well-
of president he will be?
Your turn.
Well, he certainly can be. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to lose tonight. I mean, his support has always been almost unmovable. So the second piece is the
Sadly.
honeymoon, I think, is over for Kamala Harris. And you all kind of touched on it with Donna. Kamala Harris has to answer for the state of the economy that she took a role in the Biden administration, the border, her past positions on decriminalizing
ABC
the
is
border,
going
decriminalizing certain drugs.
very heavy
her
on
role was
Kamala.
in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played
Isn't
a role
ABC
in the Biden
like a,
administration. She wants to act like she's
generally
not
left wing,
incumbent.
Yeah, generally left
This
wing.
is where the focus is going to be.
Like, so this is
And
actually
she's
kind of
got a
surprising
lot to answer for tonight.
that they're
And
like
I think
going this
that's where
hard on the
Donald
Kamala
Trump's
Harris
focus
campaign.
will be and where it actually should be tonight.
Not that
Well,
that's to
one
be
of
an
the
asshole.
things
Okay, I
he
thought about
wants
Biden
to
administration,
do
not
is
Kamala.
have female voters look at him. How
Like,
does
how
he
is fucking-
attract
Of course, I'm
female
talking about the
voters
past. I'm talking
after
about her
saying
time in the
how
Biden
Trump
administration.
was
Why are you
pronounced
saying like,
bad
oh,
tonight,
her
things he said
her
about
growing
Kamala
up as a
Harris
woman?
got
Like,
the
what
That's
the
not
fuck
really
do you
gonna attract
mean?
female voters, is it?
Yeah, no, it won't. But I also think that just like he did in the first debate against Joe Biden, I think the formula here is to constantly tie Kamala Harris to the Biden
Reese, gotta hurry up. You got
administration,
2 minutes
Trump
left.
is
Come on.
winning against her on the economy, inflation, and all these other problems that we're having, and then sit back and let her talk. Let her explain herself, her past positions, current positions.
Let her
How does
explain
she
the
feel
Biden
about
administration, how
Biden
that
has
went.
done on the economy? How does she feel about the border? Well, then turn it over and let her talk.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us.
Trump
tonight.
is not gonna let her
Ryan,
talk.
We're all staying tuned. Can't
He's
wait.
gonna cut her off
And I have
a
to
lot.
say, as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this such an extraordinary moment, and especially Rachel, when you consider
It's
that
not
these
extraordinary.
two
This
people
happens
who are
every
in the
year.
center of our
Calm down.
lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And
There you
Harris
go.
said, if you got something to say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned her intelligence as well, or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're
Probably
likely going
both.
to have in this race.
When it
it'll be
comes to racial
interesting see if
identity,
Harris can make clear the stark
who
choice
fucking
before voters.
cares?
Where does she decide?
All I
to
care
go?
about,
She can
all I
run
care
away.
about
She
is
do
like
that.
how
Rising
well
vote
you can
needling coming
debate
her way.
and
But first
how
and
well you
foremost,
keep your
why don't you see a
promises. That's
handshake
it.
when the
Okay,
two of
so
them
when
meet
it comes to
in person?
Kamala,
We
the
did
issue
it
is
back in
like A,
2016
code
when I did
switching,
that
and
debate.
B,
We'll stand by
her
to see
flip
that
flopping
tonight.
and
But
just
the
saying like,
first
oh,
time
like I'm the first
side to
Indian
side.
senator of America. Oh, now I'm the
And
first
I
black
have my
vice
doubts that we're
president.
going to see that
Like,
handshake. What you are going to see is a spirit
basically
debate,
her just
and
like swapping her
perhaps
own
the
racial
most
identity, basically
consequential
on like a
general
coin
election
flip.
debate we have ever seen, because
So we
almost
got
certainly it's going to
Ian
be
in
the
the call
last
now.
one.
Welcome, Ian.
So
He's
Long tall
probably going to be
handshake.
muted for
Stakes so
quite
high,
some time.
presidential
Oh,
debate
absolutely he
just
is.
moments away. We have the entire news division keeping an eye on everything. We are going to be fact checking on our live blog. It's all going to be happening right here. The debate now, just 10 seconds away.
Yeah,
and
let me
we
turn
will
this up a
be
little
back
more.
with our post game show as soon as it's over. We are going to toss it right now to David Muir and Lindsay Day.
They just cut him right off.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last
I'm
debate.
gonna be so
Donald
mad
Trump now up against
if
a
Donald
new
Trump
opponent.
doesn't make the
Candidates
joke.
separated
Like,
by
I
the
thought you'd be
smallest of
taller or
margins,
something like
essentially
that.
tied in the polls nationally, and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
Woo!
This is an ABC News
Yeah.
special. The most
Grab your fucking
consequential
popcorn,
moment of this
boys.
campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will
Donald Trump
We will soon be a great nation again.
face to face. Historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening. I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the
There
world
he is.
tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris,
Lucas
this is
said
her
they're cooking
first
rib beans
debate
and rice.
since
Does that
President
count?
Biden
That
withdrew
counts.
from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions. And
Okay,
this
can I
is the
pause for a
clock.
second?
That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals, 1 minute for
Sure.
follow-ups, clarifications, or responses.
Just for clarification on the studio, on the audience here today, we'll be pausing momentarily throughout the thing to talk about things that were discussed.
Yeah, like in order to make sure that we don't talk over any like important stuff and just miss stuff, we will be pausing occasionally to make sure that usually at a stopping point we'll wait for them to get done and then we'll pause unless there's something completely and totally fucking egregious. Like that's going to be the general rule of tonight. All right, let's go.
Also, another thing, if you want to join the conversation, you can chat. I will pin your comment, and then when we get to the sections we do talk, we'll share your comment and we'll discuss with you guys as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
Intimate.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Boo!
Oh, she is way shorter than I thought.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country. And they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border
And
security
pause.
during this debate, but I would like to let
One thing, decided to fact check on there because I hadn't heard of the Trump sales tax. I Googled it and did a quick fact check. It does not exist.
Yeah, I think she mentioned that was just a wage that she called it that. That was her way of saying whatever the fuck.
It does. So he has never proposed a sales tax. Trump planned to institute a universal 10% tariffs on imported goods to the United States. I don't agree with that, but label it what it is.
So my only problem, I can't like go on Trump's side here, but like I get pissed off when Kamala Harris was given an exact question, which was, do you think the American people are better off 4 years ago than they were now, right? Let's be honest here. The obvious question is yes, or they're better off 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Obvious fucking question to answer, right? But she had to fucking dodge the question in such a way that makes it seem like she'll make it better without saying that it's worse. Without I don't get it. It makes me mad when you could have just said, yeah, we're better off 4 years ago, but we can make better. We can go better from here on out.
Yeah, it just feels like denial at that point.
Yeah.
You could easily just say like you saw her shaking her head whenever Trump was saying like, oh, things are 20, 30, 40, sometimes 70% higher. Which is just a fact. I've gone to the grocery store. It hurts.
My bills have gotten up more because of this fucking this inflation. And it's fucking ridiculous. I used to remember a time when you used to go into Walmart and get like a good amount of ground beef for maybe like $4, right? Now the shit's almost $8.
Yeah.
Maybe $7. It's
All right.
ridiculous. All right.
Let's start it up.
let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no
You missed an
plan for you.
opportunity there.
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
And pause.
All right. So the fact that when it came back to her rebuttal, to his rebuttal, and she didn't bring up the whole Project 2025 thing, she lied about that. That's
Yeah,
my
like,
opinion.
It definitely does look very bad if you're not like continuously rebutting. Like, no, you are a part of this. Like, even if that is false, you have to at least like try to make it seem like he is a part of it and make him look like the liar. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss if you fucking have to, I guess. But
Okay, just right quick, I do want to say, to accuse him of endorsing Project 2025 is absurd. He's gone on the record like literally over like 2 or 3 times saying that he's not. Like, I don't know where she was coming from with that one.
yeah. The other thing is like trying to say like, oh, these top economists are saying this, this, and this, but the top economists that are currently running the country have absolutely ran it into the ground. Like, you can just look by the record, and people know this. They lived through the Trump era presidency and the Biden era presidency. We know for a fact what the economic policy of Donald Trump is going to be like, and it is not like apocalyptic. We're going to see lower gas prices and like average to middling prices at the grocery store. We're not going to see things like they are today. Like, that's just not how it happened, and we saw that as an improvement.
Also, I love the fact how she tried to blame the pandemic on him. Like no, like it's not his fault that the pandemic came in quite, that like it takes years. Let's face it, years to face like some kind of pandemic. That's just kind of how it is, right? And
Yeah.
it started at the very beginning of 2020, and it just so happened that election year happened on the same year. So he didn't leave you the pandemic. The pandemic was already there, and now it's your job to fix it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he didn't leave you a broken economy and a healthcare crisis. Like, Donald Trump didn't summon that out of the ether. Like, a lab leak in Wuhan or like the Wuhan wet market, whatever conspiracy you go with. Like, it came out of China. It destroyed the world's economy. he did the best that he could. He followed Dr. Anthony Fauci's word, like word for word, brought him up on stage on the daily to give guidelines. It so happened, like, if you're criticizing Donald Trump, you should be criticizing Dr. Anthony Fauci first and foremost, because basically Trump just handed like all the healthcare shit over to him and said, "Hey, this is your expertise. Go."
And also, Locust posted or chatted while we were watching that we want a president that doesn't screw us. That's literally all I'm asking for. And so far, like Trump's standing on his legs. I get it. He's doing a good job so far, but there's nothing there that really convinces me. He's just defending himself. I'm waiting to see what he can say to back. Like, I'm upset that when she claimed that he's causing the biggest threat to democracy. I'm with you, Ryan. I'm upset that he didn't say anything about her being the Democratic candidate with no vote.
Yeah, like I saw whenever she said it, you literally snapped your fingers and pointed like, okay,
I was
go.
waiting for it. I was waiting for it, and he didn't say it. So maybe he just missed it. I don't know. All right, let's get back to it.
Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from
pause 1 second.
Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore.
Just pull it back like 5 seconds. I just hit the arrow key on your keyboard so we can get that opening in. But fact check, her claim that the trade deficit was the worst it's ever been under Donald Trump, false. The deficit with China fell under Donald Trump by more than $100 billion. I did not actually know that. I actually assumed that would be correct because trade, tariffs generally lead to just the other side increasing their tariffs, and it just ends up going back and forth, like it did under Herbert Hoover. But it seems like under Trump, it actually lowered the trade deficit by over $100 billion per year. So it didn't make it suddenly positive like he said that it does, but to say that it was the worst it's ever been is patently false.
All right, I'll be honest with you. When I hear the word tariffs, it makes me kind of nervous.
Yeah, I hate
Because-
tariffs personally. I
Yeah.
entirely support free trade.
Yeah, and so when it comes to Trump saying tariffs, that's one thing that I have a big issue with him. But it's
I have an
hilarious though. Go ahead.
My issue is that it's a universal tariff. To be clear, tariffing on China is definitively good for us, just because the fact that they do so many sneaky shit when it comes to their trade deals and scrubbing the numbers and doing basically international robbery. So a small tariff on Chinese goods to prevent our industry from just sucking over there and then being traded back to us for a massive profit on their end, that could be beneficial to us. But his proposal for a universal 10% tariff is going to end poorly, in my opinion.
What gets me though is they brought up the good point was that if she has a problem with his tariffs, then why were some tariffs still active that were created under Trump's administration that continued on to the Biden administration?
Yeah,
that's like you can't be calling him out for that shit when you keep doing it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's absurd to me that someone, for how much she's been talking about how bad the tariffs are, him just saying, well, just get rid of them then. It's your administration right now, basically. Why didn't you just get rid of them? You like the money, don't you?
It tends to be like the current meme right now with Kamala Harris is that she says that it's terrible right now. We're gonna make it better. We're gonna make it so much better. And everybody's like, why didn't you do that shit when you were with Biden? But anyway, let's continue on. Also, Locust, Bleebo for president. Hell fucking yeah.
Check out our merch store where you can buy a Bleeble for President coffee mug. Do we
And
have a
buy
coffee
it.
mug?
We have a coffee mug, and we also have a shower curtain.
To hold your shower water.
Let's get to it.
Because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
That's crazy.
And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to
Oh,
kill
shit, here
Roe
we
v.
go.
Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President.
I'm about to say, Ryan, did you fact check that?
Yeah, so he is correct in the ex-governor of West Virginia saying, like, let the baby be born and then we'll find out what to do with it. That's a direct quote. Like, he is correct on that. But there's
Holy
not
shit.
but there is no law in the entire country that would allow for it.
Okay,
but
that's great. That's great. But this kind of fucked up, though, that governor did say that.
yeah, like, I pulled up Tim Walz, her vice presidential pick's views on it. So according to 19thnews.org, it reads as follows. As Governor Walz established himself as an ally of the abortion rights movement, notably by enacting a law that enshrined reproductive freedom into the state's constitution, abortion is legal at any point in pregnancy in the state. Under his watch, the state repealed other restrictions, including a 24-hour waiting period for people seeking abortions, and passed a law meant to shield Minnesota health providers and patients from abortion-related prosecution in other states. Basically, most of what Trump said was true. Tim Walz did sign something into law that would allow for an abortion in the 9th month. Granted, that would likely mean that the child is either completely and totally unviable or is a threat to the mother's life. But it does not look good whenever you don't have any sort of criteria for what would make that legal.
Right.
As well as removing the 24-hour waiting period of basically like not medical emergency abortion.
So essentially what Trump says is correct, except for trying to claim that they try to legalize. From his claim, he said that states are trying to legalize abortion after or execution after the baby was born. So we got some little lies in there.
Yeah. So one like over exaggeration from Trump that was like bordering on just a lie. I'm saying like that they do that. That's not the case. But the governor of West Virginia, the ex-governor, not the current one, the ex-governor did say like we'll have the baby, then decide what to do with it.
That's so fucked up. Okay, let's continue on. I had to make sure that was not right because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like it. that's an absurd thing to say, and like the moderator is correct that you can't do that in the nation, but Trump was talking about how the Democratic Party is radicalized and using him as an example.
All right, let's get back to it. Oh, Locust did say, "Don't tell me I wanted to go bankrupt." I guess that's the conversation we had about the merchandise.
Yeah, you highlighted that and then posted our fucking web story. You knew what you were doing.
I knew exactly what I did. Wait, Locust also says, "Only fools don't wrap their tools." Okay, let's get to it.
President, want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
Well, one lie.
Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And
Trump
I
already argued
pledge to
against this,
you,
though.
when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes.
Again, she mentions 2025 or Project 25, and Trump's already said that he's not part of that.
And he also, in the last segment that he had already said that he supports the exceptions in the same way that Ronald Reagan did in rape, incest, and the mother's life being in danger. So she basically just went on a multi-minute long rant agreeing with Donald Trump.
Now, my understanding is that some states, though, have their own ruling on it, and you can go to jail.
Yes.
That's the issue we have.
Yeah, but, so the overturning of Roe v. Wade is a very, very interesting subject. We won't go too deep into it now. But trying to label those laws as Trump abortion bans is disingenuous at best, and just blatantly lying. Right there was basically just her blatantly fucking lying, because Trump said in the sentences beforehand that he was for the exceptions, and everything that he's done has said that he's for the exceptions. He just removed Roe v. Wade. You've had 4 years or so to codify abortion law into law, and you've only tried to do the most extreme things, leading to it not getting passed. And then finally, I don't know why you keep bringing this stuff up when he is saying hey, I'm willing to do this, and then trying to... It's like she pre-prepped something without ever looking at Donald Trump's track record of what he's been saying, because he already preemptively took all the wind out of that sail.
Yeah, I can kind of get where she's coming from, though, being kind of... Let's face it, every lies. That's just kind of how it goes, right? So I can imagine that she fully believes that even Trump says this, that he'll support the exceptions, that he's not going to do it. But at the same time, I don't know. Like I can get why she's trying to reiterate that statement because politicians lie, but she forgets she's also a politician. So
Yeah, like at that point, there's no point to the debate. Like, if you just believe everybody on the stage is just lying with every breath, like Trump has reiterated this point time and time again, all the way back to like 2016. Like,
Real quick, my point with it is that with a debate, you should, to prove you are worthy to the audience, you should assume that your opponent is telling the truth and debate them from that base.
you should. But that's the problem with Kamala Harris is she's debating him based off of him lying. Which, granted, again, we've proven that they're both lying. We fact checked both. It's a shit show. Again, it's a shit show. Let's get to it.
He goes again, it's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D.
Say yes or no,
I
Trump.
don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't.
You
get
could have
student
won
loans.
the
They couldn't
election
get
right
close
there
to
and just
getting
decided
student
not to.
loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people.
Now
that
it
had
looks
loans.
like she was
They could
accurate.
never get this approved. So go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
If I time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, The people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor
That's murder.
of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security.
Okay. First off, Kamala had a point. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have to answer the question if Trump doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, like Kamala ended up winning that. It wasn't like a huge haymaker victory, but Trump could have won it if he just literally said, "Yes, I would veto it."
Yeah,
Like,
if he said yes,
if he
veto
does
it,
that-
that's it.
Like, if he says, "Yes, I would veto it," he wins that section, hands down. Like, instead of it being a haymaker for Trump, it's a jab for Kamala.
But he's. But it makes me nervous though now that he tiptoed around that shit.
Yeah, like, because that gives credence to her being like, to her basically like questioning whether or not he was being truthful.
And yeah, like it. And that whole abortion or allowing abortion at 7th, 8th, or 9th, like you have to ask into like question: is that like a still living, breathing,
Like, granted,
fetus?
I will say, thinking about his answer and like sitting down and thinking about it for a second, he did answer it more than Kamala answered her thing, saying that it would never come to that, meaning that like the implication there is that like it would never get the support to even reach my desk, and so of course I wouldn't have to veto it. So like he's still somewhat concerned, but it just looks bad not to just say yes.
Yeah, I'm about to say like either way, it doesn't matter because like if I was a president, if I was running for president, and that question asked was me, I would say yeah, I would veto it. No, you know.
Yeah, like that's all he had to do, and then Kamala, like he laid her up too, and she's just like, well, you didn't answer your thing, so like why should I? Like that still means that you're dodging the question. You could make him look like a fool by just answering the question.
Yeah. Either way, yeah, Kamala won that one, but like you said, it wasn't a landslide victory. Ian, any comments on this?
Got it. All right.
Moving on.
Security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him
Or
talk about
traffic.
is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation.
She hit
And
him
it
on
happened
pride, and he can't let it
3.5
go.
years
Oh
ago.
no!
And what's going on here? You're going to end up in World War III. Just to go into another subject, what they have
He's
done
spiraling.
to our
He's
country
spiraling.
by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets
That
of
actually
the
did
people
happen.
that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible
going on,
reports of
Whacker Smacker?
specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've seen
this-
people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
But people on television say
clar-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no
This is a
evidence. of that.
strange
Vice
hill to
President
die on.
Harris, I'll let you respond. to the rest of what you
Pause very quickly.
You talk about extreme.
There we go.
There is video and photographic evidence of the refugees in Springfield, Ohio, taking ducks from the park, wringing their necks, eating them. And I haven't seen any evidence of like pets being taken, but they are just kind of walking around, finding animals in the street, killing and eating them, as well as taking over abandoned homes and everything else. But that is actually something that is going on.
I still, regardless of like the point he was making, I don't know how it stands as a response to what he was asked.
Yeah, like it was a spiral. Like if he had just stuck to the point that Kamala brought up, but he let his pride get injured and start like he basically started flailing after that. Like, oh, what does she mean? People are leaving my rallies. Like, no one gives a shit. Just stick to the actual point that's being made. You can see on her face that she knows that she kind of like shivved him in the gut there.
You know, she definitely won that one, and it was very interesting to see because you can. I have the phone in my pocket, so I can't actually see his face, but I imagine you could probably pinpoint the moment in which he realized. You could probably pinpoint the moment in which he realized that he has to rebuttal, because that's always been one of his biggest problems, is that if other candidates know that that's one of his biggest problems, because he basically just wasted a response there, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop back into the video.
um, This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress
That's not someone who you
Liz
want to.
Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation
Pause for just 1 second.
proposal.
That was actually a very strong rebuttal from Trump, in my opinion, in terms of sitting down and just they have not fired a single person. Rebutting her, trying to put him on 200 Republicans endorsed me. Yeah, I fired them because they did a shit job. That's actually a fair point. Yeah, of course these people are going to endorse you. I fired either them or their friends. You haven't gotten rid of a single person. And linking it to the Afghanistan withdrawal that was disastrous is a smart strategy there. So he actually did get a couple of extra points in that one. So you think of anything like that or no?
I have no comment. I'm not too certain when it comes to firing, and that I don't know.
All right, let's go.
Go.
That the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation.
Ian, mute yourself.
Today would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher.
By buses.
Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President Harris,
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference.
She only gets to bring this up once,
has
but
been
let's go.
found
She's using her card.
liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this note.
That was just like, no one really did anything massively mistakenly there. Kamala basically did exactly what we were expecting to do, like the prosecutor versus the criminal thing, which is just, I don't think Americans really care that much about that, personally. And then Trump had the rebuttal in terms of like, oh, well, the DOJ was involved in this and this and this and this. So neither one looked like worse than the other there. What do you want, you little cunt?
Is your dog making noises?
He literally just sat down, sort of wagging his tail and whined at me. So what the fuck do you want? Let me open the little gate for you and let you in. Come on. Oh shit.
Oh, there he is.
Let's go.
The stream got 20 times better now.
Notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you.
Pause. That was the worst showing she's had all night. That was all patently false.
Yeah.
And it like also like when you're the one, Ian, what the fuck are you doing? Mute your fucking mic!
Oh fuck!
Are you
Shit,
eating?
shit, shit. My bad, boss.
He unmutes his mic to just loudly eat fucking corn chips. You absolute retard.
They're Popeyes, dude. Popeyes has a new flavor called sweet and smoky Chipotle.
I don't
dude.
care. Mute.
Nah, this shit busting, bro. Oh my god.
Where the fuck was I?
Talk about her performance.
Yeah, like when you're the one who is actually like using the DOJ against your opponent, is like he's saying he's going to use the DOJ against their opponent. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're the one doing that right now. Like RFK outright said it. Yeah, like I was worried about Trump being a threat to democracy, and then they did that shit. And like, oh wow, this current guy is actually worse.
Good Lord. This whole, like I said, this debate is really it's really getting crazy. All right, let's get back to it.
And Harris, in your
I do
last
have one
run
thing
for
to say
president.
about it.
Go ahead.
Actually, I'll wait until the end.
All right.
Court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris.
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a
We've heard this
hardworking
3
mother
times.
who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then
What the
on
fuck did that
protecting
come
women
from?
and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing
She's like a
up for
Naruto
those who are
character
most
vomiting her
vulnerable.
backstory.
My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many
$1 million?
billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Oh,
please.
shit.
Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres
Just in
of
case you
desert
know
soil.
that.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an
Pause for a second. I looked it up. Kamala Harris actually did praise defund the police movement in June 2020 radio interview. This is reported by CNN.
All right.
Let me just so nobody's lying. No, I'm lying. I'm gonna copy and paste this into the chat. Hold on. God damn it. Hold on. Boom. Literally. Like, it's saying that she never supported it. It's right there by CNN.
Let's see. All right. There's nothing that I can find that says that Kamala Harris would support a ban on fracking. So, Trump's first outright lie of the night, at least from what I can tell.
Well, didn't he lie about the whole fucking saying that they were trying to legalize like kids after, or legalize killing kids after birth?
No, he said that the ex-governor of West Virginia said that and compared that to like the Democratic position, saying that they're the radicals. What I can find on this is that she does back Biden's plan for reducing fracking. So it's more of like an exaggeration than an outright lie. But you should just say that she's planning to reduce it.
Yeah,
There's
not
no
just
reason to
outright.
just go that extra, because like she could refute that. Oh, I'm not trying to ban it. She can't say that. Well, yeah, like she would have to like say, yeah, I'm trying to reduce it.
Yeah, but saying that she She doesn't support the defund the police thing. I mean, it's right there by CNN. Thank you,
Yeah.
CNN, for telling on her. All right.
An election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the
It's
border czar
not the
because she's
discussion.
embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys militia, the president said, the former president said, stand
Justin,
back
you're
and
actually
stand by.
off on that one up.
So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
Let me pause this.
Yeah. So Trump did say there are fine people on both sides, but he also said not the racists, the bigots, or the neo-Nazis. Those I condemn completely.
Okay, so she took that out of context.
Yeah.
He did say, though, there'll be a bloodbath, they lose the election.
He's in the that's also one that's taken out of context. I've actually looked into that one very heavily. He's talking about the automotive industry. It's been described as a bloodbath, like that will be completely and totally destroyed. That's another one that was taken out of context.
Okay, but one thing, though, that I definitely did not agree with what Trump said was that when somebody was shot and killed at the Capitol and said it was an officer that went out of line or whatever the fuck, I'm not sure it's the same individual, but there was a video in this one corridor in the Capitol Hill where the fucking they're trying to breach through this door. They're trying to get through it. Officer pulls out a gun behind the door saying, all of you stay back, don't move any forward. One person tries to jump over through the broken glass of the door and they shot him. Like, officer were trying to do the job. Like,
the Ashley Babbitt case is very, very controversial because there's not really a clear, correct answer. Personally, I don't think that it should have come to the point of someone being shot, but I also can see that I don't think that those people should have been in the Capitol building in the fucking first place.
Yeah. All right, moving on. And then again, another situation where Trump had to just answer yes or no.
The thing is with that one, he did answer it, and then he just moved on to the immigration points. Basically, he did a short answer, used the rest of his time to try and nail home immigration.
All right, we're gonna move on here.
Real quick, something that I want to throw in. I would like to say that it's something like, what's the name of the role of the people who were giving the questions?
Moderator.
Yeah, the moderator said, "Well, sir, we weren't talking about Nancy Pelosi. We were talking about you." He did technically answer the question through talking about Nancy Pelosi by saying it was her responsibility and not mine. So he essentially did answer the question. I got a little bit of shade off the moderator, and I feel like they should be almost completely impartial.
Yeah, he's done a lot better job than most of the moderators have done, but that was he should have been able to pick up on that.
Yeah, I'm at work and I can only half pay attention, and even I caught that he answered the question.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country. He ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
That,
to Israel.
okay,
Hamas.
pause for a second. That looks very strange from the moderator to cut him off whenever he brought up that she didn't get any votes. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
That
that's finally him calling it out, saying that she didn't get, you know.
She got like him saying like he got 14 million, he got thrown out. She's got 0, and here she is like as a major party candidate. Like that is like you should, instead of like cutting on saying Mr. Trump, we have more to get to. You should say, all right, Miss Harris, like respond or whatever. Like I know he's coming up on his time, but like you should definitely expand on that point, like as a moderator.
Yeah, that's a question that everyone has. You know. Granted, maybe we're looking at this wrong. Maybe she got, went straight to the front line because nobody else wanted it.
Yeah, fucking right. No one else wanted the presidency.
I don't know. That's my theory. We'll see though.
War and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected.
Here we
Israel
go.
must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how it got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the
All right.
hostages out and prevent the killing of
Pause for
more
just 1
innocent
second before we go
civilians
into
in
this.
Gaza?
I fucking called it. I told you there would be a segment on who's gonna suck off Israel harder.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sick of this shit, man.
I am so far out of it, I don't even know what's going on, to be honest with you.
Like, They're like, oh, like you want to? Like, I support Israel more. I support Israel. I support Israel. I support Israel. And like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude! Can't we just say fuck it and leave? Like, because I'm not gonna lie, like it's across the fucking planet. Why is this such a huge fucking thing? Now, Trump is going to come out and be stronger for Israel, like, in terms of like him being pro-Israeli than Kamala is. And currently, like, I think the polling shows that that's the more popular position. So it's going to be better for his campaign. I'm just saying that me personally, I really fucking wish that we as a country could just get over this bullshit. Anyway, go
All right,
whenever
moving
you're
on.
ready.
All right.
How's that?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris.
Very strong showing from Trump there.
That's absolutely not true.
Do you want to discuss
I
or no?
have my entire career and
Up
life.
to you.
Yeah, like pretty much everything that he said there was correct. Not of like him like saying like how he would do this, this, and this, and this. We can't know that yet, but like we do know for a fact that the reason why this happened is because the Biden administration handed money to Iran that they then handed to Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. He should have hit harder on the Houthis because they're the ones that are affecting us the most directly by attacking the Red Sea and thus vastly disrupting global trade. But everything he said there was basically true, at least about past events.
All right. Anything else to add on to that? Ian, you?
How's the Popeyes?
It's so good. I'm talking like this sauce is like absurd, dude.
Good to know.
I've
Go on.
supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that he's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well
did say
known
that.
he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why So many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Wait, why'd they cut him off to go to an ad break? we have a lot more to get to anyway.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after
Let's see
this.
here.
Lindsay Davis.
Okay, I had to get something to drink real quick. You entertain the people for a good 2 minutes.
All right, sprint, boy, sprint. All right, you forgot to mute his mic. Any questions from the audience or anything like that? Because he's hitting the nail on the head there. Yeah. Like, he was pretty much... how big is it? 6.5.
What? What is that? What just happened?
I have to be truthful to the viewer.
Who would ask that?
Whacker smacker. Wait, no!
There's a person in the chat called that?
Yeah, whacker smacker.
Why would you answer the question from a clear pervert?
He wanted to know.
All right, moving on.
I asked for questions from the audience, and he decided to ask how big is it.
That's
I
not...
gave him a fucking answer.
All right. I didn't know that we were answering questions from, like, incoming perverts now, but all right. Whacker, do you have anything to ask me? Anything at all?
He's not posted anything yet. So if he has a question for you, I'll give it to you.
Excellent.
Locust 48. Ian, that's the pot calling the kettle black.
All right, I am back.
I don't know what that's implying, but it may be, it may be implying, I don't know. I don't know.
Quote
the
from
hell?
Whacker Smacker, was the Popeyes poppin'?
You've been here that long? That was like 30 minutes ago.
He's been here for a while.
Why is Locust asking if Ian, that's the pot calling the kettle black? What's that for?
He called Whacker Smacker a pervert.
Yeah, that is the pot calling the kettle black, Ian.
Okay, anyway, very funny. Anyway, the important thing being, the Popeyes was good. I find that Popeyes might be the most consistent of all fast food restaurants, and yeah, very much so.
All right, on back to the debate.
Yeah.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal.
How about
because we
say
have
yes
to
that
stop
Ukraine
all of
wins?
these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I
He
want to get
did
your thoughts
answer
on
there. Like,
support for
pause this real
Ukraine.
quick. He did answer that he's not saying like it doesn't really matter the outcome because the U.S. interests are just like in the war ending. What do you want? What do okay. Yeah, like him answering yes or no there actually would damage diplomatic talks if he were to become president. Like, because he can't act impartial in that instance, which, you know, nobody's going to fool themselves into thinking that the U.S. is impartial, like they want Russia to end up losing out. Granted, realpolitik says that that's likely not to happen. However, it would be just, for lack of a better term, retarded of Donald Trump to say that, yes, it is in America's best interest for Ukraine to win, because that means that Russia's never going to go to a table with America being the one to sign the treaty, like accepting the treaty as real.
Right. All right, let's see what Kamala has to say about this.
In this moment, but also as commander-in-chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason
Did
that
she just
Donald Trump
admit that-
says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up.
Did she
And
just
that's
admit
not
that
who
he's
we
dead?
are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier. And now,
you should have let him
please,
respond to
I'll
that.
give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
Pause real quick. Has Trump gotten younger during the debate? Like, I feel schizophrenic. His hair was like completely white early before the fucking break, and he came back out like he had absorbed some essence or some shit.
I don't know. Man's a. I don't know. I haven't noticed it. He looks the same to me.
Like, I don't know. Like, Kamala's point here is like straight fucking retarded. Like, that Trump is basically just saying like you looked weak and so he invaded. It's like you're idolizing strong men. I'm like, no. He's just saying that you guys were weak diplomatically, and he saw an opportunity and jumped on it.
Well, then again, she never met Putin to begin with.
Yeah, but let's be completely and totally realistic here. What he under the Biden administration, we saw Afghanistan. We saw the absolute devastation that was. Like the worst embarrassment in the last 20 years at least. Like, worst embarrassment nationally since 9/11. Shut up. And what that message to the world is that America is weak right now, and so he went in. He's inaccurate, and it's to her talking to Putin. Can you shut up, Cricket? I've given you Cheetos. I bribed you. I paid the toll. Yeah, that look of shame, you should be wearing that right now. You're already kind of fat. Yes, I fat shame my dog. I do it all the time. You can't eat the fucking quarters either. No, let's start this shit up.
All right.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first
Oh, here
hour
we go.
of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers. and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response
Pause
to her
real
saying
quick.
that you began the negotiations
thank
with the
you.
Personally, when it comes to the withdrawal from Afghanistan, I personally feel like no matter what president did it, the same result would have happened.
I have a lot of issues with the way that she's framing this. Like, of course, he would have had to like diplomatically talk with the Taliban during like the withdrawal, because like, while the Afghani government is there, as we saw, the Taliban were the ones basically in charge.
Yeah.
And like, you can say, oh, you shouldn't like legitimize terrorists. The terrorists were legitimized. You can call them terrorists all you want, but they were the government of Afghanistan, basically, and currently are. So would you rather just leave without a deal, without guidelines, without anything? Or because you just want a virtue signal that you're doing more than you actually are? Or would
Right.
you just rather do the thing? What about you, Cricket? What do you think?
Nothing at all, huh? All right.
The fuck are you looking at down there?
He's a little bit shy. All right, let's continue on here.
Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
Just like you said,
President
Ryan.
Trump, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your
I'm
thoughts
so
on
just
this?
pause for a second, but like
I think it's, I mean,
the comma he put between that she's not black, that she put out.
Like, okay.
I know what he meant to say there, but that comma, god damn.
Jesus Christ, Trump.
Your husband used to be a very satisfied man, but he doesn't seem like that anymore.
Let's keep going here.
honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to Black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This
Yeah,
is
you
the
wanna
most
talk about any of that or
divisive
not?
presidency in the history of
No,
our
wait-
country.
wait for his response.
There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond.
Oh, more
briefly.
responding.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who
Bullshit.
believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I just
We're
need to
gonna move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you
Anything there's more to that one?
Ian's not here right now.
No, I said anything you want to respond to that.
Oh. I think that the moderator was definitely trying to push Trump to like reveal a lot more of like a plan. Where he's like, I have concepts, I have things that I'm talking about and everything else right now, which made him seem like he's trying to like dodge and weasel his way out of the question. But in all honesty, that's probably the correct answer. Like, I have concepts, I have ideas that I kind of want to push forward, but I'm going to like get with people and make sure that they're not going to like hurt more than they're not, hurt more than they're going to help.
Right.
The main theme of tonight has basically just been like the first like third of this. Kamala was actually like taking it to Trump for a little bit. And then like they got done with the commercial break and it's just been like the complete reverse to me. Like,
yeah, at this point, Trump's got it in the second round. That's what it looks like.
It's all down to closing statements at this point. But how much longer do we got?
So for the debate itself, we got about 22 minutes.
This one in 2 minutes till, I think we got like 10 minutes left, maybe. Yeah, about 10 to 15. All right, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Reported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past is
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that
I'll pause for a second because when it comes to the whole healthcare situation, saying that they made it better with the Affordable Health Care Act, and how it shows. Remember back in the day when the health insurances used to deny you of stuff. It used to deny you of stuff. When my father had cancer in 2019, and the Healthcare Act was still somewhat in effect, there's a surgery that had to be done with a tumor to be removed, right?
Yeah.
And the insurance company did not see it as necessary. And we had to fight an arm and a leg to get it done, to show the insurance company that it was necessary. So what the fuck is she on about?
Not only that, look, I want to do a little bit of a callback to earlier whenever she was talking about, what's it called? Like a new generation of leadership. Over and over and over and over and over again. She keeps talking about people like Dick Cheney, like the late great John McCain, like Mitt Romney, how all these people have endorsed her and how all of them are like talking shit about Donald Trump. Why the fuck are you trying to push yourself as this new, brand new ideology that has yet to be seen in America, this force for fucking change, and then keep bringing up the most decrepit, old assholes who ruined the nation over and over and over again?
I know.
Like, I don't mean to rant here, but it's been kind of building and stacking up like a fucking Jenga tower, and this bitch just won't fucking stop. She keeps bringing up these evil people, these absolute fucking frauds, and saying that she's just magically different. That even though these people all support and love her, that suddenly, somehow, some fucking way, she's gonna be different than them. And just bullshit. Just fucking bullshit. Just admit you're like a centrist, like neoliberal. Just admit it. Fucking admit it. She's not a communist like Donald Trump is trying to say over and over again, but she's nothing new. She's nothing. She's not a force for change. She is the same old, same old.
Damn. Yeah, that had been bottling up. That had been bottling up for a little bit.
Like, she just kept going over and over again about how she's this new generation. And I'm like, you're fucking 60.
But yeah, my only complaint was the fucking the health insurance, health market. No, like insurance companies did not improve. They're still as shitty as always. Anyway, moving on.
That's important for a
She
lot
made
of
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in
true.
Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate.
All right, let's get to the closing statements.
Constitution Center.
So, what are you thinking of tonight? Because it's like, Kamala, I'm no longer like terrified of the aspect that she could at some point be president. Like, it eased that a little bit because she's at least not completely like falling over and dying like Joe Biden did.
Yeah.
But like, god damn it, on policy, it does seem like Trump is kind of kicking her ass. At least to me.
Yeah. Again, there's still nothing here that makes me vote for either one of them, to be honest with you. Because Again, politicians gonna lie. They're gonna lie. It's whatever. We called out both their lies throughout the entire time. Granted, Kamala had lied a little more. And Trump just made a fool of himself that one time. I mean, you could have just said, "No, I'm not gonna sign. I'm not gonna whatever the fuck."
Yeah,
My
that's gonna be
brain's fried.
repeated. That's gonna be like clipped and repeated time and time again. Yeah.
Yeah, like, he really fucked up with that one. Really fucked up. But yeah, I mean, if I had to predict who's going to win, it'd probably be Trump. And I'm not saying that as a big Trump fan. Again, I don't like either one of them. But based on this performance, I mean, Trump's got it in the bag.
All right. Let's see closing statements.
We're in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past. And an
That's the
attempt
most
to take
cliche
us
shit I've ever
backward.
heard.
Yeah.
But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
This
And
is
we
so
can
fucking
chart
practice.
a new
God damn
way
it.
forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney
Don't
general,
bring that
a
up.
United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a
Oh God damn it! That
never
was
asked.
And you sent the people to jail a lot of times.
multiple, like over the most basic of shit.
Yeah, your client is the people, and you've made a lot of money off the people by sending to jail. All right.
God damn. Like,
That
this
was
is
a
the
bad-
one. This is one of the worst closing statements I've ever seen, dude.
Yeah, she brought up Lily just literally shot herself in the foot. Literally shot herself in the foot. All right.
A victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Trump's closing.
And we are here live on
Nope, Trump's a
ABC
fuck
with
you.
our post-debate comments. I'm Martha.
Like, Trump's closing was very, very strong compared to Kamala's. Like, God damn it, Kamala. What? We have one vision that is clinging to the past and one that looks to the future. You could have literally ripped that out of, like, a... it nearly gives me a headache how cliche that fucking speech was.
I know. So yeah, again, like you said, like Trump's speech is kind of hard. It was kind of strong, but there wasn't much to compete with there.
Yeah, like the closing argument, like I guess 2 out of 3 of the rounds went to Trump. I do think that Kamala had the best highlight when it came to, like, she was very smart about bringing up his rallies and, like, basically hitting him with a point and then making it about the rally to, like, bait him into, like, defending his pride and using that. Because I don't know why she didn't repeat that tactic all the way throughout the debate. Because she used it once and it ended up really working out for her, and then she just never used it again.
Yeah, another quite missed opportunity.
Yeah. And the most frustrating part was definitely the moderators. Like, the first half, they were very, very good. And in the second half, when Trump started to pull ahead on a couple of things, they definitely started, like, playing defense for Kamala Harris. Like,
just a little bit too much.
Yeah, like, there were times where the moderator was like, Mr. Trump, we have to move on to the next point. Like, no, we really don't.
Like, hold on, he's cooking. Let him cook.
Yeah, like, why do we have such a strict fucking schedule here? Like, let's get to the fucking meat and bones of this shit. You can't describe a presidential policy in 2 minutes? In a minute? Are you fucking kidding?
All right. Well, anyway, yeah, thank you all for watching the debate with us. Again, I'm still on the side. I'm on the side of not voting right now. But like I said earlier, predictions. I'd say Trump's going to win this based off this debate. Like you said, Kamala had him in a good few moments, but Trump had a little too much of an edge there.
Like, once it got into the actual policy of things, it became more and more clear that Kamala was trying to use rhetoric and sophistry and basically just dance around, never saying that she had something to do. He's like, I have a plan. Say it. Like, I love small businesses. I have a plan to help them out. What is the plan?
What is the plan?
Like, Trump is saying time and time again, like, what he's doing, a 10% universal tariff. He's saying, I'm going to fix the southern border by deporting the illegals across the border, reinforcing laws in sanctuary cities, and building and completing the wall. Like, he's saying these things. This is a plan. You can't sit there and say that one person has a vision and one doesn't, when it's clear that you're the one who doesn't.
Like, all you've given was promises with no reason to.
It felt very Obama era. Like, Obama, like Kamala Harris actually did come out like fairly charismatic at times in terms of like being friendly and nice and all that stuff. However, Obama also backed up his words when it came to like, oh, I have a plan for this, and he would just go into full detail as to what his plan is. Kamala Harris tonight basically just started saying shit and just kind of hoping it would stick.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue for me. I don't know if the average American viewer is going to be sitting down and like, oh, this person did this person did that. They're probably going to look at a couple of highlights, see the one that Trump fucked up on abortion, and then that's going to be a running thing for the next couple of days into the next debate if that is to occur. I hope it does occur because we need more than what happened tonight. But overall, I'd say debate performances like a 7 out of 10 from Trump, probably like a 5 out of 10 from Kamala.
I agree on that. I agree. Again, I don't understand what Kamala was doing, trying to bring up these old, really terrible politicians that supposedly had her back.
Yeah, like Dick Cheney?
Yeah, out of all of them, Dick Cheney.
Like, I physically went, oh, not that one. Oh, you don't want to do that. That's a fucking mistake. He shot a man. He shot a man.
But anyway, so yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for watching and listening in with us, and hope we made you laugh a couple times. You know, this is mostly for comedy, at least on my end. Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Ryan, before we sign off?
I miss RFK.
I do too. RFK Jr., you heard his speeches, and it made more sense. And there was actually
I just want a motherfucker to just sit down and say a plan. I just need a plan. Like Trump was given plans. I didn't agree with all of them. Like the tariffs thing, I hate tariffs.
Yeah, especially universal tariff.
Despise like a universal tariff. That is Herbert Hoover did that. It led to the Great Depression. But it is a plan.
It's a plan that like you said, it's a plan more than what Kamala had. Well, anyway, thank you all for watching. Good night. I'm about to head out of here and go to bed or do something. I don't know. See you all later.